Welcome back to Thone's Nibbles number 201, covering a bit of Titus chapter 1, Appointing Elders. This is Titus 1, 5 through 7. For this reason I left you in Crete, that you should set in order the things that are lacking, and appoint elders in every city as I commanded you. If a man is blameless, the husband of one wife, having faithful children, not accused of dispensation or insubordination, for a bishop must be blameless as a steward of God, not self-willed, not quick-tempered, not given to wine, not violent, and not greedy for money. And this is about choosing the right man. Just as a setup for this for a moment, he's talking to Titus, who was another one of his young preachers. I mean, Timothy was a very close teacher to him. Titus was also somewhat close, and he and Titus had been on the island of Crete, and they had established a few churches there. And then Paul said, well, I got to go on. I got other churches to preach to, and so on. So he left Titus there on Crete to help those churches that have been started get established, and in particular finding elders that would be appropriate for that church. Choosing the right man is what I call it. Why is this in the Bible? It's advice for establishing good leadership in the church. It's written to all believers, and it lists good traits for a leader. Application to my life. Here things get a little thick. Here we have some recommendations on characteristics of good teachers. There is some debate as to whether these are firm requirements or important considerations. Are they rules or are they guidelines? This is also true of a similar list that is in Timothy, which we happen not to cover that part of Timothy. So, this is, many churches have these kinds of problems in choosing appropriate leaders. And the one that generally trips everybody up, as we'll go ahead and say it, the husband of one wife. And what does that mean? Does that mean one wife at a time? That you cannot be married to, a bishop cannot be married to more than one person? Does it mean only one wife for life? I mean, even if the first wife passes away for some reason, are you allowed to remarry and still be a leader? Or does it allow for a husband and wife to divorce and the husband to remarry another wife? Can he still be a church leader, a bishop? And there's all sorts of mixtures of that come into play in argument. But so I of course have my own opinion about this, but I think I don't want to go against what your particular church, if they have a different opinion than I do about this, then I don't want to offend that, because it is pretty wide open as Paul wrote it here. And he writes a similar edict to Timothy as well. But that's the kind of things that we have to sort of really pray and be guided by God's will in terms of which of those various things that I just mentioned and a few others is indeed God's intent here. And the other, I just don't want to step my foot into that fire, but that is the issue. God says to me, and this is another issue about what is said here, by the way, in my church and churches of like faith. Paul is exercising apostolic authority here and instructing Titus to appoint leaders rather than local congregations. You see, independent Baptist churches, like I am a member of, believe that the only way to appoint a new pastor or a new deacon, for that matter, is by a popular vote by the congregation of the membership of that church. And although lots of people can recommend things one way or another, that it really comes down to the local church authority to make such an appointment. Now, that, I think, in this case, is probably being superseded by apostolic authority, which only existed there for really 60 to 70 years. That there were only apostles around and live for that period of time, and they had some very special authorities to speak for God, to have direct knowledge from God, to be able to pass it on to people and so on. So I think in telling Titus to appoint the leaders is really valid in the local church model, because Paul, as an apostle, has the authority to appoint this person who can appoint the other people. And that has not existed since late in the 90 AD period, when John, the last of the apostles, passed away. My personal response: Lord, let the various options about these lists of characteristics not lead to church disunity, but instead let us listen to you faithfully, to your truth. And that's difficult. It's a difficult thought, because I know, we're in the process right now of finding a new pastor for our church. And there is disagreement amongst those people as to whether or not a people of not, people who somehow don't fit the mold of exactly those things that are written here are allowed to be a pastor. And I don't want to take sides on that one, because, well, first of all, I can't take sides on that one. I'm the moderator, the person who takes the votes, and so therefore my opinion doesn't count in that particular instance, and I don't want to offend. And a few of my church members do watch this. I don't want them to be offended if my opinion comes out to be different than their opinion. So this is just an area where you have to be very careful in what you do and what you say, but if you follow the Lord's guidance in prayer, you can make the right decision, I think. And so we'll see you next.